Good morning, everyone. Welcome. As we see people begin to join, good morning to you. Thank you all so much for being here. We're going to give a couple of moments for individuals to come online. We see you coming in. Thank you all so much. We're very delighted that you are joining us this morning. We're going to get started. A lot of information to cover. I'm going to give just a few more moments for those of you who are here to get online. Good morning. Good morning. I'll give everybody about 30 more seconds and the numbers are still going up. Thank you all so much for being here again this morning, and we want to appreciate our presenters for actually being here with us to share regarding the most recent congressional legislation. Okay, good morning. I'm Bobby White, lead public policy at the Greater Memphis Chamber. And again, thank you all for joining us this morning. We know it has been what has already amounted to a tremendously busy year over into 2021. So thank you all who are here with us on today with your competing priorities. You've taken time to be here. We do also I appreciate those of you who responded so quickly to the invitation, but we're happy to have you here. We know that during the holidays, we did not know if the legislation would be signed, but the $19 billion COVID-19 relief package that made it through Congress and was signed into law 2 days after Christmas, we are aware that it has tremendous implications, especially as it relates to businesses that have been impacted and the things that now frame what support can look like for small businesses, for nonprofits, so on and so forth. So with that said, we're having a presentation today. We have the executive director for the Tennessee Small Business Center, Business Development Center, Rory Thomas, and also Aaron Davis, who's a CPA and small business specialist with that Tennessee Small Business Development Center. I want to say just this word regarding those small business development centers so we can get the context for them. What we should know regarding them is that the U.S. Small Business Administration administers the Small Business Development Centers program to provide management assistance to current and prospective small business owners. SBDCs offer one-stop assistance to individuals and small businesses by providing a wide variety of information and guidance. And I say that they've been particularly important during this pandemic as small businesses have struggled and sought every opportunity to grow stronger and make it through. So with that said, we're going to pitch it over to Rory Thomas and Aaron Davis with the presentation. Thank you all so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Bobby, and the Chamber team for the invitation to get this information out to the community. And as Bobby mentioned, SBDCs, we are SBA's largest program. So there's nearly 1,000 centers across the country. SBA partners with local colleges and universities to host SBDC locations. And we are proud that our Tennessee Small Business Development Center for Shelby and Fayette County is hosted at Southwest Tennessee Community College under the leadership of our president, Dr. Tracy Hall. So as the slide mentions, we first assist entrepreneurs in realizing the dream of business ownership, and they use a lot of great tools and resources SBA provides to help companies remain competitive. We provide one-on-one counseling and training workshops at no cost, and it's mentioned thanks to the federal funding by SBA, but also local partnerships that we have. So including the city of Memphis, where we also have a satellite office at their Entrepreneurs Network Center, FedEx, Edge, TVA, many area banks, and other partners as well. So since this pandemic has started, we've advised over 1,000 businesses seeking federal, state, and also local relief loans and grants. So when this new round of PPP was announced in the last week, the phones kept ringing. Our email inboxes continue to fill up, but that's what we are here for. We are glad to serve the community. And to that end, I'm glad to introduce our PPP expert on the team, Aaron Davis, CPA. Aaron Davis is a certified public accountant with experience preparing individual, small business, and large corporate tax returns. She attended University of Memphis, where she achieved her Bachelor of Business degree in accounting, her Master of Science degree in accounting. Also, Aaron is a QuickBooks Pro advisor, seasonal tax expert for Intuit's TurboTax company, and is also pursuing her personal financial specialist certification through AICPA. And this is all while serving as a specialist for the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at Southwest Tennessee Community College. So from here, I'm gonna hand it over to Aaron.
Thank you, Rory, for that very generous introduction. I'm going to do my best to assist you guys in getting some updates on the PPP loan and the forgiveness, the application and the forgiveness process. So for today's agenda, we're gonna talk about the new stimulus bill briefly, some important dates that we need to be aware of, and to communicate to all of our small businesses in the Memphis and Shelby County area. We're going to go over the new PPP loan details that some have changed for the first draw, what's to expect for the second draw borrowers, the new PPP loan forgiveness information details that we need to be aware of, the EIDL advance comeback, and we're going to touch on some information that will be pertinent for our lenders. So as all of you know, that the new stimulus bill was finalized on December 27th, 2020. There's a lot in this bill, including the stimulus payments that we are recently received and still are receiving. But with that, it's a $900 billion stimulus bill. And so it reaches a lot of aspects of the United States economy. But part of that bill, there are 3 small business budgets that come from this $900 billion, basically just for small business relief on a federal level. Gave us about $325 billion. And within that $325 billion, $284 billion was designed to go towards the new PPP loans and forgiveness. And then we have $20 billion for the new EIDL loan advances, or the new EIDL loan grants. So as you can see, quite a bit of money was designated towards the small businesses. So we're very thankful for that. Moving on to the important dates, as you guys have seen the SBA report that the new PPP loan applications became available on Monday, January 11th, to certain groups of people. So for the community financial institutions, or commonly known as CFIs, they can begin submitting their new first draw PPP loan request starting on Monday. And so this is for people who never received the PPP loan, so they can begin submitting their applications using a CFI. Starting today, January 13th, those who have received a PPP loan can now apply for additional funds using CFIs. So they can start doing that today, and they're going to do that using the new SBA Form 2483-SD. Also, very important for people to know that we have until March 31st of this year to apply for these loans. So for those people who are not sure whether or not they want to take advantage of this, I would, caution on the, limited time that we have in order to get the information gathered, get the applications out. So just make sure that if you are aware of any small businesses that you are close to, or any small businesses that you service, that they are aware that they are on a time constraint. hopefully in the next week or so, all the other banks and those who will be providing PPP loans will be able to do so very shortly. Hopefully the SBA and other reporting agencies will make that announcement in the coming days. For those of you who are not aware about what a CFI is, or community financial institution, these include community development financial institutions, minority depository institutions, certified development companies, and microloan intermediaries. So these are the people that are able to process first and now second draw loans right now. And then also for those of you who are not aware of whether or not your institution is a CFI, if they have the lender location enabled for origination in E-Tran, is checked. So there should be like a box that says lender location enabled for origination in E-Tran on your lender's page, website. They should be able to use this in this week to apply for their loans. Also, the SBA lender match can help you direct borrowers to CFIs. So if they're not sure what a CFI is or where to go, they can go to the SBA lender match in order to find a CFI in their area. So just to keep these in mind, these are the organizations that are allowed to submit and process return applications for first and now second draw, since second draw began today. Okay, so for the PPP loan details, they really have not changed all that much as far as the loan details are concerned. For the first draw, of course, there's going to be the form 2484. For the second draw, you would need to use 2483-SD. Both of these forms can be found on the SBA website if you're going to do them manually, and it should be able, with whatever lender you use, this form should be provided to you for completion, whether or not it be a manual process or an online process. The form should be stated for you, so to make sure that you're completing the correct form. The interest rate for the PPP loans has not changed. It is still 1%. So that's something that we are all familiar with. The maturity date, of course, during the first, the initial PPP loan, you had a choice between 2 years maturity date if you received your loan prior to June 5th. And then if you received your loan after June 5th, it was going to be a 2-year or a 5-year. Well, now with the second wave of PPP loans, the maturity date is a standard 5 years. So for those of you who apply for the PPP loan, whether it be the first draw or the second draw, you have 5 years to repay whatever is not forgiven and any interest incurred on that balance. Also, keep in mind that the payment deferred period is still active. You still have 10 months after the end of your cover period to apply for forgiveness, as well as to make sure that you are able to repay the loan. So that you have a 10-month planning period in case that you're still trying to figure out what your loan amount would be, what the interest would be, and how much would be forgiven as opposed to being repaid back to your lender. As always, there is no collateral or personal loans. So that was a detail that is consistent with the first wave of the PPP loans. Neither government nor lender will charge small businesses any fees. So that was also apparent in the first wave. Another thing that has changed is that the cover period. In the first wave of PPP loans, you had a choice between 8 weeks or 24 weeks. Well, now with the second wave of PPP loans, you can choose your cover period between 8 and 24 weeks. So now, for those of you who have, special circumstances with your businesses, You can choose an 8-week period, 10-week, 12-week, 16-week, 20-week, all the way up to 24 weeks. So it provides an extra flexibility for the small businesses in the reporting period for forgiveness. So that's really good for those people who don't really fall in within the 8 weeks, and maybe 24 weeks may be too much for them. Another big development from the stimulus bill is that we were able to finalize that the items paid with the loan are indeed tax deductible. So that was a huge win for small businesses, because I know that prior to the new stimulus bill, the IRS was stating that they did not, because the loan amounts were not included as income, they were saying that you would have to forgo that tax deduction for any items paid with the loan. Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So now, not only are the PPP loans not included as income, so you won't receive a 1099-C at the end in the next couple of weeks for the PPP loan forgiveness amount, but you now can still include those items, that rent, that mortgage interest, those utility amounts that you paid for using the loan. You can also deduct those on your business tax return, whether you be a Schedule C, S Corp, partnership, what have you. Those items are now deductible. So we get a full benefit of the PPP loans, which I think is a huge win. So for those of you who were waiting to prepare your tax returns to see what the law would say concerning the tax deductibility of those items, feel free to reach out to your tax preparer, CPA, and get the ball rolling on that process. So for the first draw borrowers, again, first draw borrowers are those who have not received a PPP loan in the first wave. So if you applied but did not receive it, or you applied but you just decided not to have it or to receive it, this is for you. So eligible entities include, of course, 500 or fewer employees that are eligible for other SBA 7A loans. So that was persistent with the first wave. Now, so they added extra entities this go around. So now sole proprietors, independent contractors, and eligible self-employed individuals are now able to apply for a first draw PPP loan. So for those of you who file a Schedule C or file a 1099, have received 1099 forms for your services, if you meet certain standards, you should also be able to apply and receive the PPP loan. So that is a good thing for a lot of people who just weren't sure what they could do. And I know a lot of sole proprietors and independent contractors are hurting and need help as well. So any business that averages less than 500 employees per location that has a NAICS code starting with 7.2. So if you are like a restaurant or hotel or anything that falls within the 7.2, starts with the 7.2 NAICS code for accommodation and food services, you are able to receive a first draw of the PPP loan if you did not receive one earlier in 2020. Now nonprofits and churches, now nonprofits and churches can receive the loan. And now a new entity of 501c6 and destination marketing organizations who have 300 or fewer employees, including the chambers of commerce, economic development, and tourism, they can now also apply for a first draw PPP loan. So a lot of things stayed the same for first draw loan recipients, and then we have a little sprinkle in with the new entities, with the sole proprietors, independent contractors, as well as the 501c6 entities are now able to receive the loan. So that's very good for those who are still trying to pick up the pieces. and rebuild after the impact from the pandemic. For second draw borrowers, so now in the original first draw loan, the max amount that you could receive was $10 million. So obviously it was still 2.5%, 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, but now it's up to a max of $2 million for the second draw borrowers. And again, second draw borrowers are those who received a PPP loan during the first wave and now still need additional funds. So now this will be up to $2 million, and you would still calculate it the same way you did when you applied initially. So 2.5 times the average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs up to $2 million. For accommodation and food services or entities with a NAICS code starting at 7.2, your max loan amount is 3.5 times the monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs up to $2 million. So if you're a restaurant, a hotel, and you received the first wave of the PPP, you can apply for additional funding using the 3.5 times your monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs up to $2 million and possibly receive that additional funding. For eligibility, for second draw borrowers, of course, this is for people who have already applied, who are eligible at first for the PPP loan. So if you weren't eligible initially, but you now are due to some change of events, you would be a first draw borrower. The second draw borrower component is for people who were eligible for and or previously received the first draw of PPP loans. So that's the distinction there. If you need to have used your full amount or plan to use your full amount from the first wave prior to the second draw of loan disbursement. So basically saying, if you received funds in the earlier of 2020, you will need to have already used those funds or have a plan for how those funds are being used prior to receiving additional funding through this new wave of PPP loans. You need to have 300 or less employees. So if you have more than 300 employees, you may not be eligible to receive additional funding for the second draw of the PPP loan. And then you also need to be able to show 25% at least reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. So if you're seeking additional funding, you need to be able to show in either quarter 1 through 4 that you had a reduction of 25% or more as compared to a previous your 2019 quarters. So, for example, if you're looking at Q3 2020, you need to compare that to Q3 2019 and to determine if you have at least a 25% reduction. For certain sole proprietors, I did read that if you did not start your business until maybe Q4 of 2019, you could use your gross income that's reported on your tax return and compare that to your 2020 information to see if you received that 25% reduction in gross receipts. So it just depends on how long your business has been open. There may be some leeway in the comparable quarters distinction there. For those who are receiving under $150,000 in PPP loans, you will self-certify. We will get into what the forgiveness process will be for people who receive over 150 and under 150, but just note that you will have to self-certify that reduction, that 25% reduction. And self-certify means that you will receive a form and you will have to answer those forms and say that yes, that you received, that you experienced a 25% reduction in gross receipts, and you would have to sign that. Now, depending on your lender, you may still have to provide information on whether or not, to validate that self-certification, but it is a form that you will have to sign in order to validate that. So for the PPP loan forgiveness details, the EIDL advances are no longer deducted from your PPP loan forgiveness. So what that means, initially when you apply for forgiveness, for example, let's say you had a loan of $30,000 that you were trying to get forgiven, but you received an EIDL advance of $2,000. Well, now your eligible forgiveness amount is reduced by the $2,000 EIDL advance. That is no longer the case with this new wave of, with the new stimulus bill and the new details for forgiveness. So now you will be able to, with the right information, you will be able to accept the EIDL advance and receive full forgiveness of your loan if you, use the funds appropriately. There is a simplified forgiveness application, which is what I kind of alluded to on the previous slide. For those of you who received $150,000 or less, there will be a new form that is still under development, but that will be provided by the SBA. And basically it's a one-page, it will be typically a one-page form, and you will go on there and you will self-certify that you meet all the requirements to have your loan forgiven. Now, that is not to say that you may not have to provide information to your lender, depending on who your lender is, but it is a much simplified process than what was provided before. So that's something to keep in mind. So for those of you who who've already received your PPP loan and are looking to apply for forgiveness and you received under $150,000, I would caution you to maybe wait to see if you can use the new form that will be available to us, hopefully in the next few weeks. Eligible expenses. Initially, it was the payroll costs, compensation, retirement, health insurance. Then you had your mortgage interest for your business building, your business rent. So if you're renting or leasing a space for your business, and then business utility payments. So those would be telephone, gas, water, electricity, internet, those types of payments. Those were the eligible expenses that you were able to use in order to apply for forgiveness during the first wave of the PPP loans. Well, now, due to the new stimulus bill passing, we have additional costs that will be eligible for forgiveness, which I think is really good and a positive move for all of our small businesses out there. So now we know that a lot of small businesses have had to invest in PPP or personal protection equipment and other related costs to comply with COVID health and federal and health safety guidelines. So this will now be, you can now use your PPP loan funds to for this cost. You can use your PPP loan for expenditures to suppliers and other essential recipients for current operations. For example, there are some businesses that even if they do not sell anything, even if they had a significant reduction in business, they still have to pay their suppliers according to their supplier agreement. So they will be able to use funds to kind of catch up on those payments and make sure that they solidify a healthy relationship with their suppliers. So that is good to know. Also, with the new PPP, with the pandemic, a lot of small businesses have started to realize that they need certain functions that they weren't using before. So now you're able to use those PPP loan funds on software for your business, cloud computing for your business, other HR and accounting functionalities. So that is something that is very helpful and useful to know for our small businesses who, may need those services now more than ever and may not have had the funds prior to the pandemic to even use those resources. But now, due to the pandemic, it may be imperative that they have, new HR or accounting services implemented in their business. So those are a couple of things that are now forgiven. Other costs related to 2020 public disturbances that are not covered by insurance or other compensation are now eligible for forgiveness as well. So with this list of eligible expenses, you can, this is going to still be a 60-40 split, right? So payroll costs will continue to be the majority of, should continue to be the majority of how your PPP loan funds are spent. But that 40% you can now split between all the rest of these eligible costs and, report that in order to receive forgiveness. So that is really, really important for all of our small businesses to make sure that they know that they can spend, get the right PPP equipment, get that accounting or HR assistance that they need, and still potentially qualify for forgiveness using those funds. All right, now we have a little bit of information for the EIDL advance. Currently, we are still waiting on more information as to when it will be available to the public, but just a couple of things that we noticed that is now available to all of the small businesses. So the EIDL advance, a new component of the EIDL advance is that it will provide additional targeted funding for eligible entities located in low-income communities. So for those entities that may be in areas that are underserved, there are now targeted funding for the EIDL advance, specifically for these groups of businesses. It makes entities in low-income communities that received an EIDL advance eligible to receive an amount equal to the difference of what the entity received. For example, if the entity applied for the EIDL advance and they only received $2,000, now they will be able to apply and get the difference between the 2 and the 10. So they will be able to apply and potentially receive up to $8,000 for these for these entities in low-income communities. So that's really great for those that didn't receive the full amount of the EIDL advance. Now will be their chance to recoup those funds. So that is a really good, really positive development for the EIDL advance. The new EIDL advance details, offers $10,000 grants to eligible applicants in low-income communities that did not secure grants because funding had run out. For example, the EIDL advance was available as long as the funds were available, right? So you had people who may have applied but never received funding in these low-income communities. Well, now, if they will be able to reapply and potentially receive the $10,000 grant that they were not able to get since funding had run out. So this is what we know now for the EIDL advance. There's still more information to come as far as when the EIDL advance will be available and how disbursement will work as far as the application process. We are still waiting on that information. And as soon as we know, we'll make plans to disperse the information as needed. So really exciting things concerning the EIDL advance, and really happy that those entities in those targeted communities who are really struggling will get a second chance at getting this grant money. Now, initially with the PPP loan, there was a bit of confusion, and a lot of people didn't really know what to do, where to go. So this information it touches on a little bit for the lenders here. So there is a paycheck protection platform that lenders can use in order to submit applications to the SBA. So that platform, it can be reached using this URL here, the forgiveness.sba.gov. It also it supports both PPP loan applications as well as forgiveness applications. So if you are a lender and you're trying to figure out what avenue to submit your client's PPP loan application and forgiveness applications, this will be a good place to start. There are two methods that lenders can utilize in order to complete this process. Lenders can manually enter and submit loan requests in the platform, which is also known as the web screen method. Lenders can also provide connect through API and submit lender loan requests that way. So there are some options for lenders. So if you still trying to figure out how to push out these second wave of PPP loan applications, this URL at the top here would be a very good place to start. Let's see here. So for the PPP for the lenders, this is the loan origination process that the SBA has published. So in order to get started, of course, the lenders would create a user account. So you can use organization admins or additional members at their institution can sign up for the platform and create their individual accounts. You can enable access to origination functions in the platform for new users. So if you have someone who is helping a client, actually prepare the loan, and then you have another person to review the loan and do the submission process, you can set up those different users within the loan origination process within the platform. You can complete institution settings. So, create workflows and different things specifically for your institution. Then once you create your user accounts, you can submit PPP loan origination request. So you can submit loan requests via this platform. Of course, here again, CFIs will also be able to use this platform as it notes starting on this past Monday, and now for second draw, which starts today. And then of course, we're still waiting for notification for all other lending institutions as to when they will be available, when they will be able to access this process and get those PPP loan applications and forgiveness applications started. And then once you submit your request, you just monitor your loan origination status. So the SBA will review the loan request, lenders will monitor the loan request and receive your SBA numbers for approved PPP loans within the platform. So that's really good that you will have, you will receive all of that in one place. And then you'll be able to view institutions' total PPP portfolio for reporting. So you'll be able to see all of the applications that were submitted and approved, how much of those loans are for, and then so it'll be easier for the institution to report who, what, when, where, and all that information as far as the PPP loans are concerned. And then also, lenders will also be able to use the platform for post-origination and servicing activities. So if they have any questions or if they need special circumstances for the lenders, they will be able to use this platform to accommodate those. So I see we have several questions in the Q&A. And it says here, and so if you have any questions feel free to submit those questions in the Q&A. And
Yeah, let me help you out with those questions to kind of break it up a little bit, because I'm also getting questions via text as normal, as well as direct chat. I do want to probably hit with a couple of ones that you see. The one that I called about 10 CFIs yesterday, and none of them could bring any specific or detailed info, could provide any detailed or specific info about how they are going to handle the application process, or when that would actually begin, or they would actually begin. So when should I expect them to have more details and actually begin accepting application? Are they required to open the application process today? And I have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, and I'll add as well. I don't know if they utilize the SBA lender match to be able to do that, but on a call yesterday, it was mentioned on the lender match, they're working and contacting all the CFIs as well to be able to try to put a button specifically on SBA lender match for PPP borrowers to find CFIs in the area. And I know, I want to say one that I know we've seen a lot of clients going through right here locally. I think they have probably 30 locations across the South. Hope Credit Union, I believe they're already, they started on Monday as well. So there may be one that they can contact.
Okay, that's good information. I was definitely going to ask if one you're aware of that is up and rolling at this time. Okay, great information. Wanted to ask this. I got this by text message. It's a straightforward question, and it is: do we know if restaurants, hotels, etc., are on the PP? I'm sorry. Do we have any? Do you have to be forgiven for the first draw before applying for the second draw?
no, you don't. You do not.
Okay.
You just have to have a plan to utilize those first draw funds before receiving the second draw. But no, you do not have to have those forgiven first in order to receive the second draw.
Could you go back over the expanded eligibility, comparing PPP first with the Paycheck Protection Program as it exists currently? What's the expanded eligibility look like? You mentioned chambers of commerce, and of course we are delighted to know and to have already been we're delighted to know so many have been impacted. But what's the expanded eligibility? Could you run that down again?
So the expanded eligibility, they were just opening up to more entities. So sole proprietors, independent contractors, and qualified self-employed people could now be eligible to apply for the PPP loan. And then as well as the 501c6, those are the people, that's the main groups with the changes of eligibility from the first wave. So now they're trying to accommodate just more people that may be affected by the pandemic, specifically those two groups, sole proprietors and the 501c6 entities.
Okay. All right, a follow-up to that, and there might be some big buckets that come to mind regarding this, but the question is asked in the negative, but who is not eligible to obtain PPP loans? I know that's a big listing, but are there some big buckets? For example, are there multi-level marketing companies or insurance agents able to apply this time?
So those who are not eligible would be the people that were not in operation at or before February 15th. There are some government agencies that are not eligible. I actually have, let me see here. I actually have a list of those who are not eligible, and I can be able to provide that list for disbursement if need be. But I do have a list of those who are not eligible at this time. So I can provide that information to you momentarily if need be.
And Aaron, out, just add, and you can also correct me as well, but a problem for a lot of smaller businesses as well, the first time around who would have been eligible, it's just that they claim no income. on
Right.
their tax return. So if you still
Yes.
claim no income,
Yeah, you can
I
do.
don't think you still can get PPP this time around. So that is important. And as you mentioned in your presentation, Aaron, about now a lot of business owners see the importance of making sure that they have accounting systems, CPAs, HR professionals, systems. So yeah, if you're not claiming any income on your tax returns, that is a challenge if you want to apply for PPP.
Yeah, definitely.
Roy, that's a great one. What other things like that are top of mind in terms of what this solved for? There's expanded eligibility in terms of other categories of businesses that are able to apply. But what else did it solve for comparing this one? And I put that to both of you all. That was a great point that you made. But what else did it solve for in terms of improvements, if you will?
Well, go ahead, Aaron.
I would say solve for improvements. Can you expound on what you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that I think there was a expanded eligibility. Could you go out beyond that in terms of talking about not just the expansion in terms of business categories, but are there what other expansions or other changes do we see going from the first go round of PPP to now where we are? Any other things top of mind come to mind?
Top of mind that we know about now, no, there are not any additional expansions at this time that we know about. Not to say that they won't bring out any additional information for us or any additional categories for an eligibility, but those are the ones for top of mind at this time.
Okay.
And
All right, I know live venue. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, no, I was just going to add for just the overall, economic aid package. There are benefits more for your smaller minority, low income business located in low income communities. She shared about the auto advance because that money ran down very quickly. It was a lot of businesses eligible who would love to get a grant as opposed to a loan. So they'll be able now to get those, go back and get those auto advances up to $10,000 as well. And then with the second draw, limiting the number of employees, so making it lower to under 300 employees now. For those being able to get those second draws. And of course, it's mentioned the timeline. We know a lot of more minority women, smaller businesses will utilize those community financial institutions to apply for funding as well. So they're trying to, shift some things back that way to assist. Then lastly, just about the restaurants, as she shared about, a lot of restaurants and food venues are experiencing a lot of challenges as well. So being able to provide additional funding that can go 3.5 times that payroll amount to apply for PPP is good. And I know you were touching on the shuttered venue grant program. And I think I may have saw a question in there about it. But and we can get that out to everyone. If there's questions about that for those live venues and entertainment places, SBA, because it is a totally grant program for it. There's going to be a SBA webinar on that on tomorrow. I believe at 3 p.m. Eastern. So everyone can learn about that program and how to apply for those grants and how they're going to set that up. So I'll see if I can put that into the chat as well. I don't know if that affects any PPP, if you are one of those venues or not, but definitely if you are one of these shuttered venues, cultural institutions, museums,
they can't
want to take part of that.
Yeah, they won't be able to get the second wave, but there is, like you said, there's a separate program for them. So it's in lieu of the PPP loan, there is a separate grant program specifically for shuttered venues.
Okay, so that to answer Whitney Joe's question, who's our dear friend from Playhouse on the Square, who asked that specifically, what she'd like to get confirmation if we could go after the shuttered venue money. If they went after that, they cannot go after the second PPP. And you're saying that you cannot go after the second PPP, but in fact, that there's a separate program available for those live venues that's been shuttered. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, and thank you, Rory. That's probably not as well stated, but what you mentioned was exactly where I was trying to get, which are kind of what are the top of mind changes we see first go around or improvements we see beyond just expanded eligibility. I do think it's very important that if you start to look at, because small businesses, as we define them being 500 and under, 500 employees and under, I mean, you know, if you have 500 employees, that's huge. And compare that with how many micro businesses that we have that have 10 employees and so many that just one or two. So cutting it down to 300 employees and below, that's huge, and will make a lot of money and go a lot further. So appreciate that clarity. You may not know the answer since you just said that all information has been released by about EIDL. However, if we receive the full $10,000 advance and the max loan amount of 150K, would you be able to apply for an additional EIDL loan / increase?
I don't think so. I think the max for the EIDL advance is $10,000. So that's the max that you can get. But if you receive the first wave of PPP loans, you can apply for an increase in your loan amount. So for example, let's say that if you received 150,000 for your first wave, but you were actually approved or eligible for 200, you can apply for an increase in your PPP loan amount. But you cannot get an increase in the EIDL loan.
Yeah.
The EIDL advance stuff.
Right. I'd love to know if we have any of our restaurant partners and tourist industry people on the phone. They are definitely our partners, hotels and whatnot. So if there are any, I know they have been deeply impacted, and so we're definitely happy to see what is being offered and provided. But I do have this question: does the employer share Social Security tax and unemployment tax include payroll cost in PPP loan?
No, it does not. So it's going to be the state and local taxes. So any state or local, like Tennessee unemployment taxes, or if you're in the state of Mississippi or something, then they have income tax. But no, it does not include those federal taxes.
Okay, let's get through. Okay, does I may have missed this, but I'm sorry. Will 1099 contractors be included now in payroll calculations?
No, they are able to apply separately. So that's part of the eligibility expansion is now independent contractors can apply it for themselves. They're not employees.
Okay, we're gonna lightning speed round, folks. We're gonna make it as through as many of these as we can. Feels like a game show. Here, 501c6. Will that be the first or the second draw for 501c6 organizations?
They can do the first draw. So if they before they weren't eligible before.
They weren't eligible before, so they're definitely first draw, right?
Yeah, first draw.
Yeah. Okay, I may have missed this, but any timeline on when non-CFIs will be able to process loans, or has that not yet been determined?
Has not yet been determined, but we're hoping by next week, by Monday, hopefully.
Right.
But has not been determined.
Right. I'll say the scuttlebutt is the week of January 18th. So next week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Happy King Day and week. Okay, here we go. Are businesses who claimed a loss of on 2019 tax returns eligible for PPP?
So if you claimed a loss or you didn't claim any money at all, you can't. It's kind of hard to compare, reduction. So I'm going to say probably not. It may depend on the type of entity that you have. So if you're a Schedule C, you need to have income to compare the reduction to. So if you didn't have any income.
Yeah, understood. Okay. All right, with a first-time self-employed applicant, how do you determine payroll? It's only me and no employees.
So from what I've been reading is that you would use your net income on your tax return, and it's going to be a percentage of your covered period. So it would be like whatever your covered period is divided by 52, multiplied by your net income on your 2019 return. And that would be the amount that you would use on your application. But we're still waiting on, once everyone is able to apply, what that will look like. But yes, that's how it's going to be calculated.
Okay, will the SBA look at credit score or credit history for the borrower?
No, not that I'm aware of. Worry.
No, that was kind of more tied with EIDL,
Yeah.
the credit and everything.
Okay. Does this also apply to surge grants if they are approved? If a surge grant has not been approved at this time, would you suggest to apply for second wave of PPP?
I would suggest applying for both. If you can apply for
Okay.
both and receive both, if you qualify for both, I don't see why you shouldn't, if that's what you need to do. So if you're still waiting for information from either one, I see no harm in determining whether or not your eligibility and determine how much you could receive.
Okay. And surge is the supplemental employer recovery grant program.
Yep.
Okay, I'm reminded of that because I just looked it up. Okay, let me ask you this relative to these CFIs. Is there, I mean, there were a couple of things that were mentioned, and you put in the chat, there's going to be a live venue presentation for those live venues that have been shuttered from the SBA tomorrow. Are there any other links or places where people on the line should know they should go in order to get information, inclusive of the CFI? When would that button be available for people to be able to locate the nearest CFI? But we know right now Hope is the one that is up and rolling, but are there any other links you guys would like to share?
Just the lender match tool at this time. The SBA said that they are working on a button specifically for people looking for CFIs, but we don't have a timeline on when that will be available at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other part is that if we're looking at next week being the week, because I know that everything got announced for regarding CFIs on Friday of last week, and with the idea that the first draw was on Monday, this past Monday, and then the second draw PPP was today. So it sounds like if we know that all the other institutions will be available next week, if the scuttlebutt around the water fountain is correct, then things will go live on this week. So and I would imagine that there's something to be said for the depth and breadth of people being able to go to their own lending institution if in fact those were not those CFIs. Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Rory? Because I know that we've gotten quite a few questions in. I want to make sure we aren't missing any big picture items or big ticket items that need to be underscored. Aaron, I'd love for us to go back. Any big ticket? Thank you very much for your information, ladies and gentlemen. Please put it down and we know.
I was just going to add that for the list of people who are not eligible, currently insurance agents are not, or marketing firms are not on the list of ineligible entities. It's mostly entities receiving the shutter venue operator grants because they have their own. Publicly traded businesses, lobbying organizations, entities affiliated with the People's Republic of China, entities registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and president, vice president, head of the executive department, member of Congress, or their spouses are not eligible. So if the insurance company is not a publicly traded firm, they may still be eligible to receive the PPP loan, as well as those marketing firms that someone asked about. If they're not publicly traded and they don't fall in, lobbying or, other international affiliations, they should still be able to now apply and receive the PPP loan.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no harm in being told no.
Right. It's okay to try and see what happens.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I'll just add, Bobby, if anyone needs, to have a virtual advising session, you can go there. It's on the website, tsbc.org. Just register for free advising. Is all virtual right now. And one of our team members will be able to schedule some time with you and kind of go over your individual needs on a one-on-one basis, confidential, of course. So yeah, definitely, if you need assistance, totally free, you can register with us. And also we try to do a great job of making sure that, all of our clients, once we get the information, that we're sending it to them so that they're fully aware of everything that's happening as well.
I have two more quick hit questions here. Please confirm that the drawers who receive less than 150K loan can self-certify as soon as the forgiveness form is complete. Could you talk about
Correct.
that for us, Aaron?
Yes, so
Or,
you'll
or
be
just
able,
repeat it?
yeah, so once the new form will be provided to you, you will be able to self-certify. So basically, there'll just be a list of questions on the form. You would mark off on the questions, you know, yes, 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 and then you would sign at the bottom of the form and provide that to your lender. So that would be your self-certification. That's not to say that the lender won't ask for additional information to validate, you know, how you spent the funds, but that it will be the process for people who receive $150,000 or less.
Yeah, and over 150, you do have to provide, you know, tax return
Or,
documents
yeah,
and other for
right
if
up
it's going to
off
be
the
over
front.
150.
Yeah, up front.
Okay, and then the last thing here that we receive here is if you receive the first wave loan, what is the maximum amount you can receive in total between your first and second draw?
So it's not seen as a combined thing. It's seen as the first loan, you know, your first draw, the max you could receive was a 10 million. And then if you're doing the second draw, the max you can receive is the 2 million. But keep in mind that it is based on 2.5 multiplied by your average monthly payroll. So if you request more than you can, you know, forgive, it doesn't, you know, that you have to weigh those options there. So, you know, keep that in mind. You have a 60-40 split. So you would need to, you know, determine how much your average monthly payroll cost is, multiply that by 2.5, and that would be the majority of your use for the PPP loan. But the max for the first draw, if you've never received a PPP loan, the max will be 10 million. The max for the second draw is 2 million. So just keep that in mind.
That's great. Well, listen, Rory and Aaron, we definitely appreciate you guys. We are appreciative of your all taking time. And Aaron's information is there to be contacted. And Rory, thank you all so much, Rory, Aaron. Wonderful presentation. Those of you who are in need, you're able to reach out to them directly. Please be in tune with us. We'll be sharing out because we have another forum coming up on the 21st. I believe it is Baker Donaldson. Our friends there will be presenting information regarding this very important program and opportunities for our business community. So with that said, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.